You probably don't realize what just happened the last time a woman reached for your hand. Most men don't. They miss it completely. They're so busy thinking about what to say next, or whether they're saying the right things, that they completely overlook the most honest signal a woman can ever give you. Not her words, not her smile, her body. Psychologists have studied nonverbal communication for decades, and one truth keeps surfacing in the research again and again. Touch is the final frontier of trust. Before a woman speaks her feelings out loud, before she even fully understands them herself, her nervous system has already made a decision, and that decision shows up in where she allows physical closeness to exist between you and her. This was never your fault. Nobody sat you down and explained this. The world taught men to focus on words, on lines, on what to do or say next. But the women in your life have been communicating in an entirely different language, one that most men never learn to read. Stay with me through this entire video, especially the point near the end about one specific gesture that researchers say is the single most reliable indicator of deep emotional trust. That one changes how you see every interaction you've had. This channel exists to give men over 40 the kind of honest, grounded insight that most people are too afraid to talk about. Not tricks, not games. Real psychology delivered with respect. Before we go any further, understand this. Everything we're going to explore today is about understanding, not manipulation. The goal is awareness and genuine connection, not control. If your intention going into any interaction isn't honest, none of what you're about to learn will work. Women sense inauthenticity faster than any radar system ever built. Now, let's talk about what the research actually says. Dr. Matthew Hertenstein at DePaul University spent years studying human touch and what it communicates emotionally. His findings were extraordinary. Human beings can communicate up to 8 distinct emotions through touch alone, without a single word being spoken. Compassion, gratitude, love, trust. These aren't just felt, they're transmitted through the body with remarkable accuracy. What does this mean for you? It means that when a woman allows you to touch her or initiates touch herself, she isn't just being polite. She is making a neurological and emotional statement about how safe you make her feel, about how much she trusts the space between you. The cost of not understanding this is enormous. Men spend years wondering why a connection never deepened, never realizing they were missing every signal that was being sent. Let's call the first signal the wrist offer. This one is subtle, and that's exactly why most men overlook it. When a woman turns her wrist upward and rests her hand near you, or offers her inner wrist during a handshake or a gentle touch, psychologists describe this as one of the most vulnerable self-disclosures a human body can make. The inner wrist contains major veins, elevated pulse points, and highly sensitive nerve endings. Evolutionarily, exposing this area to another person communicates the absence of threat. It communicates openness. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's foundational research on nonverbal communication established that body positioning tells us far more about emotional states than words ever can. When a woman exposes her inner wrist toward you, her nervous system is signaling comfort, safety, the beginnings of deep emotional openness. Imagine you're sitting with someone at a quiet coffee place. The conversation has found its rhythm. At some point, without thinking, she rests her arm on the table between you, palm facing up, wrist exposed. She doesn't announce it. She probably doesn't even notice she's done it. But something in her has relaxed. Something in her has decided, without consulting her logical mind, that you are safe. What that gesture communicates at its core is this: I am not defending myself from you. I am not braced. I am here, and I am open to what this might become. Most men see a wrist. A grounded man sees a doorway. The right response isn't to immediately reach for it or to react in any visible way. The right response is to simply stay steady. Match her calm. Honor what she's offering without making her feel suddenly watched or analyzed. Your stillness in that moment is your most powerful reply. The second signal is what we might call the shoulder lean. Touch on the shoulder carries a specific psychological weight. Researchers at the University of Miami's Touch Research Institute, led by Dr. Tiffany Field, found that shoulder contact in social settings activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of us responsible for rest, safety, and genuine relaxation. This isn't a region of the body that people allow casual contact with from people they distrust. Think about who touches your shoulder. Close friends, family members, someone who has earned the right to stand in your personal space. When a woman leans into your shoulder or allows her shoulder to rest against yours without pulling away, she isn't being casual. She is being extraordinarily specific. Her body has decided that yours is a safe structure to lean against. Here's the deeper truth that most people miss. The shoulder lean isn't about romance in the early stages. It's about rest. Women are constantly managing their environment, their safety, their social dynamics. To lean on someone is to temporarily set that down. To say, I don't have to be guarded right now. That's not a small thing. That's one of the most honest compliments a woman's body can pay you. Imagine this. You're sitting beside someone at an outdoor event, an evening gathering, the kind where the light is low and the conversation has drifted into something real. Without ceremony, she shifts slightly and her shoulder settles against yours. She keeps talking. She doesn't make a performance of it, but she doesn't pull away. Minutes pass. She stays there. That moment communicates one thing with complete clarity. You are a place she feels safe. None of this works, of course, without genuine care for the person in front of you. You can know every psychological principle ever studied, and it will mean nothing if the person you're with doesn't feel truly seen and respected. Real connection doesn't come from knowledge alone, it comes from character. Now, let's talk about the one that surprises people most. I want to call this the hand return. This is a specific behavior that relationship therapists and attachment researchers have pointed to as one of the most reliable indicators of deep emotional connection. Here's what it looks like. You briefly touch her hand in conversation, a natural, gentle moment of contact, nothing prolonged, nothing forced. And then you pull back. You give her space. You return to the conversation. And then, a few minutes later, she reaches over and touches your hand. She returns. Dr. Sue Johnson, creator of emotionally focused therapy and one of the foremost researchers on adult attachment, describes touch-seeking behavior as one of the primary ways the human attachment system expresses itself. When someone returns touch voluntarily, they are not responding to social obligation. They are following an internal pull. They are reaching towards something that feels safe and wanted. The return of touch is significant precisely because it's unprompted. She didn't have to. Nothing in the social script required it. And yet, she reached back. What that communicates at a neurological and emotional level is profound. You registered. You are not neutral to her. Something in her system has identified you as someone worth moving toward. A woman named Karen, a reader in her early 50s, who wrote in after watching a video on this channel, described a moment from a dinner she'd attended with someone she'd known for years. She said, "I didn't realize how I felt until I noticed my own hand moving toward his. It wasn't a decision, it was just where I wanted to be. That's when I knew." That's the hand return. Not a calculated gesture, an honest one. This is a good moment to pause and ask yourself something. How many times in your life has a moment like that happened, and you didn't recognize it for what it was? How many quiet signals passed between you and someone important, and they dissolved into silence because neither of you understood the language being spoken? Most men will carry those missed moments with them for years, but not you, because you're here, learning the language. Let's move to one that has some of the most fascinating research behind it. Researchers call it proxemic adjustment. I want to call it the drift toward you. Personal space is one of the most psychologically significant territories we manage as human beings. Dr. Edward Hall, the anthropologist who pioneered proxemics, identified that humans maintain different spatial zones with different categories of people. Strangers are kept at a distance of 4 to 12 feet, acquaintances 1.5 to 4 feet. Close relationships and trusted people are allowed inside the intimate zone, which begins at about 18 inches. When a woman drifts closer to you during a conversation, when she closes the space between you without any external reason for doing so, she is making an unconscious spatial declaration. She is saying with her body what she may not yet be ready to say with words. You belong in my close space. You are in the trusted zone. Watch for this in standing conversations. You'll start a little apart from each other, and then, gradually, without either of you commenting on it, the space narrows. She's not backing away, she's closing the distance. That's not accidental. The human nervous system protects intimate space fiercely. Allowing someone inside it is an act of trust that the body doesn't perform carelessly. Imagine you're talking with someone at a gathering. The room is full, the noise is steady, and at some point you realize she's closer than she was 10 minutes ago. Not because the room pushed her there, not because she had to move, she just drifted toward you. And there's a comfort in her posture, a relaxation that says she isn't measuring the distance anymore, she's just there. That drift is worth more than 100 compliments. It is the body speaking in its most honest voice. Now I want to tell you about what many researchers in the field of nonverbal communication consider the most profound touch signal of all. I call this one the anchor touch. This is the one I promised you earlier. Stay with me here because this one matters. An anchor touch is when a woman initiates contact in a moment of no apparent social necessity. Not a greeting, not a farewell, not in response to something funny or exciting, but simply because she wants to maintain connection. It's the hand on your forearm while you're mid-sentence, the fingers that briefly press your knee when she's making a point, the touch at the base of your shoulder blade while standing side by side looking at something together. Dr. Dacher Keltner at the University of California, Berkeley, who has dedicated much of his career to studying the science of touch, describes spontaneous, unprompted touch as one of the clearest behavioral expressions of emotional bonding. It serves no social function. It exists purely as an expression of connection. When it appears, it means the person doing it is experiencing something internally that their body is choosing to express outward. Think about what this means. She wasn't required to touch you. The moment didn't call for it. There was no social cue that made it necessary, and yet her hand found you. That is the body speaking without the editing of the conscious mind. That is the most unfiltered statement another person can make about how they feel being near you. A woman in her early 60s once described it this way in a conversation shared on a forum for mature relationships. She said she realized she was falling for someone when she noticed she kept finding reasons to touch his arm. Not dramatically, just brief contact. She wasn't trying to send a signal. She just felt pulled toward that small physical connection. She said it surprised her when she became aware of it, because it told her something about her feelings before she'd consciously admitted them to herself. That's what the anchor touch is. It's the body admitting something the mind hasn't caught up to yet. Here's the caution, and this matters. Recognizing these signals is not a license to push. It's not a cue to accelerate or to assume. The purpose of understanding this language is to honor it, to respond with equal gentleness, to meet openness with steadiness, not urgency. The man who recognizes these signals and moves slowly, who lets the connection breathe, is the man who deepens something real. The man who treats recognition as permission to rush forward loses everything he was just given. This is about understanding and respect, not control. Never control. Let's talk about what ties all of these signals together, because there's a common thread running through all of them that most people miss. Each of these signals, the wrist offer, the shoulder lean, the hand return, the drift toward you, the anchor touch, each of them share one thing in common. They are all expressions of a nervous system that has chosen to stop managing the distance between two people. The human body is constantly performing a threat assessment of its environment, with strangers, with casual acquaintances, even with people we know but don't fully trust. The body maintains its defenses. It keeps its posture closed, its distance measured, its vulnerability protected. When those defenses come down, they don't come down because of words. They come down because of presence, because of the feeling of safety that one person's steadiness creates in the room. They come down because, over time, a woman's nervous system has made a decision that your presence is not a threat, that it is, in fact, something she wants to move closer to. This is why the man who is desperate, performing confidence never gets these signals. You can't manufacture them from the outside. They arise naturally when a woman genuinely feels that the man across from her is grounded, present, and genuinely interested in her as a person and not as a target. If you want to be the man who receives these signals, the work isn't in the techniques. It's in becoming someone whose presence genuinely creates safety. Someone who listens with their whole attention. Someone whose calm is real and not performed. Someone who is interested in the woman in front of him as a full human being and whose care for her is honest. Psychologists and therapists will tell you unanimously that emotional safety is the soil from which real attraction grows. Without safety, there is no real connection. There is only performance from both sides, and performance eventually exhausts itself. The men who understand this are rare. They are the men who don't need to read body language frantically because the body language comes to them. They are the men who have done the internal work to become someone whose presence feels like a quiet harbour in a noisy world. Most men will scroll past this. They'll look for the shortcut, the line, the formula that bypasses the real work. But you're here. You've stayed. And that means something. You're not looking for a trick. You're looking to understand. That distinction is everything. Take what you've learned today and do something simple with it. The next time you're in the company of a woman whose presence matters to you, don't perform. Just be present. Watch not for what she says, but for where her body settles. Notice whether she moves closer or stays measured. Notice whether her hands seek contact or stay carefully to herself. Notice whether the space between you feels alive or managed. And then, whatever you notice, respond with the same calm steadiness that made her feel safe in the first place. That's not a technique, that's character. And character, unlike technique, never runs out. This is the kind of knowledge that changes quietly. You don't notice the day it shifted. You just find yourself, months from now, more present in your conversations, more aware of the full language being spoken in the room, more grounded in your own skin. And the people around you, the women whose presence matters to you, they'll feel it before they can explain it. If today's video gave you something real, leave the word steady in the comments. Not a question, not a long explanation, just that one word. It helps this channel reach more men who are ready for this kind of honest conversation. And it tells me that what we're building here is worth continuing. In the next video, we're going to talk about something that almost no one discusses. The specific words women use when they're describing the man they finally trusted completely. What those words have in common, what they reveal about what women are actually looking for after a certain age, is not what most men expect. Don't miss it.